Welcome to the Searching for Meaning podcast. My name is Gonzalo and I'm joined by my brother Tiago. Welcome.
Greetings.
And in today's episode, I want to start off by, in a way, reading the quote that, the podcast is at least going to start with. Probably the post, the same quote you've seen before clicking if you came from Instagram. And that is, your willingness to wrestle with your demons will cause your angels to sing. This is a quote by August Wilson. And I found this very interesting one today. More, the way that it was put, like the way it was written, because I feel like it's a concept that it is present in a lot of the other quotes we, either share or that we covered already. And yeah, I just feel like it's very relevant to, especially the main point, I guess, that I want to make is because when you're, quote unquote, wrestling with your demons, improving yourself, fixing whether those are bad habits, bad thought patterns, whatever it is you're solving, even though it is in a way a battle, it is a pursuit that will cause some conflict. In the end, it will always bring something better out of that. If you're willing to go the distance with it. If you stop, and I feel like if you stop before you quote unquote get there, or before you see any relevant change, then of course not. Then things will always be the same. But if you're willing to actually, go long term with it, to improve yourself, solve these problems, yes, it's always a battle, which means some conflict. But at the end of the day, like the quote says, it will cause your quote unquote angels to sing. So yeah, like I completely agree with that. I feel like for me, it's the, it's never, as sometimes people may seem to put it, that it's like, it's going to be so effortless now, self-help, you're just going to meditate a little bit and start all these new habits, things are going to be great, everything's going to be perfect, when in reality, we're always going to have bad days, we're always going to have days when things don't work out. And also for us to understand, at least in my opinion, that it does require at least some days when it is a battle, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And even those habits are a battle on their own respect. Meditating, you should never meditate. It's a battle initially. You don't want to do it. It's uncomfortable. The same thing with journaling. It's all things that make you, if you never thought about problems you have in life and you start addressing them, yeah, it's always going to be uncomfortable. And like you said, it's only going to pay off in kind of like mid to long term. It's not going to be instantly. It's not going to happen instantly. So I think what happens with most people is they kind of try for a bit and they don't get any results or any like improvement in their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get even more averse to the idea of trying to tackle their problems because they tried once, it didn't work out, they just felt pain, and now like because they had no positive experience associated with it, they don't want to do it. I have this a lot with friends that when they like talk about their problems and you try to suggest solutions, like simple things,
Yeah,
it's like they all get this answer of like, nah, I've already tried to do that and it didn't work out. And that's like one of the worst things to try to break from a person, because it's like maybe it's true, they did try and it didn't work out, so what do you say at that point? It's kind of like you can only say try harder, but it's not a comforting response. It's just, but it is true, because almost any issue you have, if it mentally if it's not a mental disease or anything like that, it can be fixed through your own will and your own initiative and through your own habits that you set for yourself. But yeah, it is going to be hard. It is going to be difficult. And I think even some people know that it's difficult, and so they don't want to do it, even though they may know that they can do it and come out brighter in the future. But because the pain in the present is just so much, they don't want to do it.
Yeah,
and that's like a shitty situation.
Yeah, I think it's like the kind of that situation when the pain of doing it doesn't justify the pain of not having the result right now, or it's not. So for example, for someone who's very fat and hates their body and whatnot, maybe it's very justifiable to actually pursue getting a better body, going to the gym, eating healthy, all these things. But if you take someone who let's say they also have poor eating habits, sleeping habits, working out habits, but for some reason they're, those type of people who are skinny regardless of what they do, at least when they're young. Like for them it's going to be much harder to even find that motivation to want to do it, to want to implement these things, because and I understand why, because in your mind you'd be like, why would I change if, you know if there's not that, like, I guess you'd call it motivation, but it's like that pain to change. I think is I don't know if it's Tony Robbins who says this quote, which is, until the pain of remaining the same is not bigger than the one of changing, you won't change. And I do believe that in a first stage, usually change, it kind of comes from pain. It never, especially if it's the first thing the person is doing to seriously improving themselves, it is always going to come from a lack of something, a lack of confidence, lack of a good body, lack of money. Like, it's not, oh, I'm so good, let me improve a little bit, at least in a first stage. And that's why I found so important to, I'm not going to say to experience that pain, but to be aware of yourself. Because if you are aware of what you're doing, even if you seem like everything's kind of normal, everything's kind of not good, not bad, it's kind of decent. If you are aware of those things and if you have ambitions of some sort, then it's going to be much clearer to actually, at least in my opinion, to actually then go ahead and change them.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm thinking to myself while we're talking about this, like, how do you actually help people that have they're in the situation that you said, where the pain of continuing doing what they're doing still isn't more than the pain of changing what they needed to change. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, if you're a friend of someone who, I mean, obviously we're all friends of people because everyone has that issue.
Hopefully, yeah.
with something, something in your life is like that. And so what can you do as a friend of someone like that, which is everyone? I guess it just means being there and kind of nudging the person on the right direction, and eventually being there when the pain reaches the threshold.
Yeah, when they're ready.
Now you need to change. And that's like an important lesson, because especially when I see when friends of mine start getting into like really the self-help space, maybe obviously most people start with like Tony Robbins and things like that, where it's like very the changes like people search are instantaneous. It's like,
it's like a moment,
you
a click,
scream, shout, you're waiting for that click, and then once you kind of, if you think that way, you're trying to get that click to more people because you're a good person. You want more people to feel better, just like you do. And so I think that actually is a very bad approach, because you try to force people. Like, I noticed that people like start complaining with others, like, why don't you change? Why don't you get better? Aren't you sick of whatever you're doing that's making you and like, obviously people are sick of what they're doing that's making them feel bad. Obviously they know they have to change. So it's not like they need it's not motivation that's making the difference. It's not someone screaming in their face and telling them to do it that's going to make a difference. Actually, I don't even know what will make the difference. It's kind of like something that each individual has to do, and you pushing someone towards that direction is possible, but it's not going to be instantaneous, most likely.
Yeah, and in a way, it always needs to come from the person. You can't just go to a friend and be like, dude, just come on, let's go with me to the gym. It's gonna be so great. You're gonna change. You need this. Because if you start doing that, it can even be worse, because the person can even start being annoyed by that. Like, they cannot even want to do it anymore. They're like, oh, Jim is that annoying guy? Nah, I'm not. I'm good at home. And I feel like to a certain extent, if we're talking about helping others, they need to have that will to change, and with time, hopefully that clicks. But then I do believe the best one can do is just lead by example. If you're so motivated and about these things that you want to change or want people to do as well, just be more, in a way, dedicated to them within yourself, but not in a way that it's always like kind of showing that off. I guess, because let's say, you're a guy that you recognize taking care of your body is important, and so you go to the gym, you eat healthy, you do all these things. So when you go out with friends, that's going to be noticeable. in, let's say if you guys go for dinner, maybe you'll pick a healthier option. If you go more to the gym, it will show in your body, maybe your energy as well. And then if the person notices that a bit, then they can also come to you and ask for that. But I feel like the thing is, and the more I go along, the more I believe in this, which is you should never give advice if the person doesn't ask you for it. Like, because if they don't ask you for it, they most generally do not want that advice, like ever. At least that's
Mm.
what I've found.
Yeah, and if they don't want it, they're not gonna listen to it, which is actually very important because you can have all the reason in the world, and it still doesn't matter. That's
Yeah.
not how human interaction works. It's not like it's not logical. Most people, like I think, especially men, tend to believe that it should be something logical.
Yeah.
Like X plus Y equals Z, and so that's it. It's that simple. You're fat and lazy, so sleep better and go to the gym. And obviously, that is part of the solution, but that solution needs to come from not only logic but an emotional place from within
Yeah.
the person. And that
Yeah.
emotional place, I'm not saying it can't be started by other people, like ignited, but it's most likely going to have to be something that starts from within the individual.
Yeah.
That's the only way of something lasting long term. Because, like you were giving the example previously of people like a friend trying to the other friend, like, "Oh, come to the gym with me; it'll be fun." Like that friend may come, like with the other person. If there's another friend,
Yeah.
a friend pulling them towards the gym, they will come, or pulling them towards an healthier lifestyle, they will. But what happens when that friend isn't pulling you? You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
going to disappear. It was something superficial. It's not something that you built from within. It's like starting to build a wall from the ceiling. You don't actually have anything there, and obviously, good friendships help with establishing good habits.
Totally.
That's something very important. Like if most of your friends go to the gym and eat healthy, it's much easier for you to eat healthy and go to the gym because that's your community. So in that sense, yes, obviously try to search for people that do the things that you want to do already. I think that's a very good advice in general for life. But don't expect that to be what will save you. It's
Yeah.
not going to be your friends that save you. It's going to be your family that saves you. Ultimately, they will help, but you will save yourself. And obviously, I think that's the response that no one wants to hear when they feel like shit, because it just makes you feel like more shit because you know
Yeah.
that you are feeling like shit because of yourself. And that's the first step, kind of like you need to realize that it is on you, but then you also need to do not blame yourself because of how you feel. Not blame yourself, but not end up on a vicious loop of like blaming yourself for blaming yourself.
Yeah.
You can blame yourself, and that's totally fine, but just stop there. Blame yourself and then go do something that improves that situation.
Yeah.
You don't need to continually feel bad because you feel bad.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like a big thing as well is because I feel like now more and more there are people taking that first step of actually being like, going to the gym, eating healthier. I feel like more people are wanting to improve and actually starting. But then one of the biggest problems I see, which is, I feel like it's always been the main problem, is the consistency, like being consistent and being able to adapt properly. Because I feel like what I see is either people who are, not consistent at all, so then they never get any results because it's impossible. It's like they climb a bit and then they stop, so they go down again, and they're always in this there's this very tiny ceiling that they can't overcome just because they're not consistent enough. And then the other one, and I feel like this is the even the worst one, which is people who are very consistent and have been consistent, but they're not able to adapt and overcome, and so they stagnate. And I feel like you can see this in any field. Like, I bet if you go to the gym, there's guys that are there that have been going to the gym for the past 5-10 years, but then they still look kind of they don't look like someone who's been going to the gym for 5 to 10 years. They don't lift. It's like the results aren't there. You can see this in business in a lot of situations, because it is, if you're always consistent but with the same thing, and you the results stop coming because you've kind of overworked that strategy you're using as well. It's like it's not really going to work, more in some things than others, of course.
Yeah,
But-
because I think with the gym example, for some people it's enough to be in the gym, to be active and like
Yeah.
socializing with other people. For some people, if you're like the normal person, that's enough. You know, you're moving, you're socializing. I mean, you can be stuck in the same place, but if you're already healthy, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
With other things, obviously it's different. Like if you have running a business for 10, 20 years, and it's, I mean, with that you can also be satisfied, but most likely you want, if you're like, the human tendency is to try to improve.
Yeah, that's
So
why I
most likely
said, you
most
know.
people aren't satisfied with
Yeah.
that. But for some people, you know, it can work.
Yeah, but how many of those people exist? You know, I feel like that's the 60-year-old guy was there just to kind of not be stuck at home. Because if you look at someone between, I don't know, like 20 and 50, my assumption is that they don't want to just stop where they are. I mean, not everyone, of course, but you know, I wouldn't say. I mean, it really depends. But I'm just saying for the people who want to improve, and are noticing one of these two, I feel like a big part of it as well is that people expect, and I'll touch more on the lack of consistency, because I guess that's more common, which is I feel like people expect shit just way too soon. They just want, you know, go to the gym and then in 3 months, oh, I'm going to have a six pack, a big ass chest, and all these things. And it's like in 3 months, you're going to be exactly the same for the most part if you're just starting out. That's it. You're going to be a bit stronger, maybe a little bit more defined, but that's it. You're not going to go from, you know, lump of meat to you know, chiseled god or something like that. And I feel like I hope, and I would hope that things change more and more with, you know, more information. But in some regards, I feel like it's even worse. Like, go to YouTube, go to Medium, go to any place that is giving information. I feel like it's like clickbait is more and more apparent. There's also more and more people who are very good and actually give you the right information, but those are always much smaller than the, you know, the clickbaity ones. You know, if you go to any of those platforms, there's going to be a video saying the top 6 strategies you need to get a six pack in 6 months, you know, shit like that. When in reality, it's not going to work. You know, those things are not going to really work for you that way. And in a way, I feel like the person, you know, you need to go through that, because in the beginning you always believe that, but then it's going to require you to realize it's not like that, and then to kind of put your head down and just work on the craft, you know, slowly improving every day about it. And I just kind of want to give the example of, because I've been watching the Michael Jordan documentary, the Last Dance, it's called. And so Michael Jordan, the greatest NBA player of all time, if you look at his first seasons, I think it took him like 3 or 4 seasons to win his first title. Actually, let me just get specific here. But as I'm typing and I'm talking, it's like he was the greatest of all time, but he still had to pay his dues. He had to find his right team. He had to go to 2 or 3 finals of not the finals, but the conference finals, and lose. He lost two years in a row to the same opposing team. And it's like, he could have just quit there. He could have just been frustrated and not keep going. But it does require that consistency, and then the will to adapt as well. And when I say adapt, in a lot of sense, it's more you adapting to yourself, understanding, you know, what's the best time to go to the gym that I'm more consistent? What's the best time to eat all these things so I don't go and eat shit at McDonald's? It's like understanding in these pursuits we're talking, adapting yourself to yourself in a way. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, it's recognizing that there is no universal solution, and that most likely the solution will not be fast and immediate for anything else, anything you do really, and it's always going to take time and consistency. More than all, it's consistency over time, which is really something that doesn't get. I mean, we talk about it every podcast, obviously, but I think in general it isn't talked about enough, because I think everything can be traced back to consistency in anyone's lives. The things you can figure out that brought you better results and make your life a good one, it's probably things that you've been doing for like a year to 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's the things that you stuck around with, and that kind of make you who you are. The things you've been doing for a long, long time. And it's really boring, because obviously no one's like saying, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym for 1 year and I'm going to be slightly better than I am.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like no one wants to say
exactly.
that. Everyone wants to say that I'm gonna go to the gym and put on 30 pounds of muscle and look like a
Yeah.
Greek god.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it can happen, but it most likely
Yeah.
won't.
Yeah. And just for kind of like context as well, Michael Jordan first championship that he won was in 91 and he debuted in 85. So that's 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, without winning a championship. And a lot of those years already being the MVP of the league, already being the best, considered the best player during the regular season. And so in a way, in his case, it's like he not only realized, he was the best, but then he also had to adapt and find that, oh, I have to make my team the best as well. I have to not only allow the other players to enable me, but I have to enable all the other players so that I can win the goddamn championship. And then, then he won 3 in a row. He retired for 1 year. He came back. He won 3 more in a row as well. But if you look at it, it was 6 years until the first one. 6 years of practicing every day, pushing yourself, being the best every game or as many games as possible. And it to me, it just shows that you gotta pay your dues. And then before that, he played for God knows how many years when he started playing when he was like 6 years old, probably, or something like that. And when you see that, because I feel like in a way everyone wants to be some version of their own personal Michael Jordan, quote unquote, whatever that is they're trying to do. Maybe they don't have the ability to do it, or maybe they don't even want to go that up, but they want to be, I believe, the best they can. But to be the best you can, if for the most talented among us in a very specific thing takes this many years, like you can expect to just, like we're talking, you can't just expect to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start going to the gym and I'm 5 pounds overweight, and then 1 year I'm gonna look like a bodybuilder. It's like, no, you're not. No one does, and it requires time. And I feel like that's one of the most overlooked things, because people are always trying to optimize, and I'm not going to say cut corners, but find the shortest path to your goal. But it is still a path. You still need to walk for a certain amount of time until you get to this goal you have. It's not just you find the secret and then you get it. Even if you find the best practice, sticking with the gym, you find the best practice regimen, the best diet, all of this, you still need to apply it for a certain amount of years to get there. It's not like you figure it out and then you are there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and it's like I think that's the universal truth of life. It's just a boring truth that no one wants to kind
Yeah.
of accept, but it is what will accepting it, because I think people don't want to accept, and I speak for myself. When I first heard of the concept, you don't want to accept it because you feel it's going to take a long time,
Yeah.
and you also feel that you don't have enough time to do it, and so
Yeah.
logically it makes sense for you to try to go all out because it's limited time, memento mori, you're going to die one day, all of that. But on the other hand, you will waste more time trying to get there and not getting there because you keep failing than just doing the slow route and eventually getting it. So
Yeah.
it looks like it takes more time, but it will actually take less, and you will actually get results instead of just always trying and failing. It's just very difficult for you to accept that if you haven't tried and failed enough times,
Yeah.
because you are not ready to accept that you will fail if you just try to go all out.
Yeah, I feel like that's the perfect description. We could even end there, which is, it will take you longer. I guess I'll put it in my own words. It will take you longer trying to find a shortcut around it than just doing the correct way. And I feel like that's it. There at the end of the day, there are no shortcuts. There are slightly more optimized ways than others, or even a lot more optimized ways than others than getting there. But if you commit yourself to being consistent and adapting, eventually you'll find them. Hopefully, if you keep adapting and you realize what works and what doesn't, eventually either you'll get there, or you'll get to someone who knows a better way, and then you get it from them. So yeah, at the end of the day, shit's gonna be boring, but time will pass anyway. So might as well use it in a good way instead of wasting your time to find the better way and never actually applying it. I guess that's where I would end. This was the Searching for Meaning podcast, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Peace.